Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Figured we might as well get it out of the way right away.
Yep.
We got a shit ton of breaking news to start the show. Welcome to the Ice Guys, Friday, March the 7th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Friday NHL card, which we will do in a little bit. We're just going to forego the recap of last night because we're going to take a lot of time to talk about what's been going down here today in the NHL. We'll just say a quick thanks to everyone that joined us on the Betcast last night, Patreon exclusive, and all the members that are subscribed on the Patreon page for just $10 per month that were along for the ride last night on the Patreon exclusive live Betcast. So we thank you for joining us. Obviously, it's trade deadline day, and there has been several, as far as volume of trades, not a huge amount as far as the number of trades, but boy, there have been some big ones that have gone down, no question about that. And the biggest one of all, which we started to hear the rumblings of late last night, just after the Betcast wrapped up, Elliot Friedman had the tweet that the Dallas Stars and Mikko Rantanen were a long way down the road of coming to some sort of trade between Dallas and Carolina with an extension also on the way for Mikko Rantanen with Dallas should the trade go down. And what I applaud about Jim Nill is right from the get-go, he said to Carolina and Eric Tulsky, he said to the Mikko Rantanen camp, no extension, no trade. He made it very clear right away. I am not trading for Mikko Rantanen without getting him re-signed and locked up long-term with the Dallas Stars. And he did that. Not only the trade completed, but the trade completed because he was able to get the extension in place for 8 years with Mikko Rantanen. The question is going to be for me with this deal was, who would he part with? Would he have to part with maybe a couple of roster players? Three names were bandied about. Wyatt Johnston, I said, nah. Carolina will push to get him. Dallas not giving him up. He's been that good for them. That's an untouchable for the Dallas Stars. And also Maverick Bourque and Logan Stankoven were the others. The three current roster players on the Stars that were mentioned at potentially going the other way to Carolina in the deal. The fact that Jim Nill only had to part ways with one current roster player and Logan Stankoven, and yes, 2 first-round picks go to Carolina, but they're lower in the first round type of picks based on Dallas's position in the standings. So, like I said, I thought job well done for Jim Nill. Like you said, you never know the prospects that are going to get chosen at those positions in those first round picks they gave to Carolina, how they're going to pan out. And you don't have an opportunity this big to win a Stanley Cup very often. Dallas has been on a roll lately. They played a C- game by their standards last night against the Calgary Flames, and they still won the game, which tells you how good things have been going for them of late. But they only part with Stankoven and the 2 first-round picks, and Dallas is just, from an offensive standpoint, name a team more loaded with depth than them right now through all 4 lines. It is absolutely absurd just what this team has now in all 4 lines, and now Mikko Rantanen, you're talking about adding a perennial 90-plus point producer a year in and year out to your lineup, a guy that can shoot the puck, facilitate, make great passes, unbelievably talented and offensive instincts. And the thing about Rantanen is his passing ability is almost every bit as good as his shooting ability and his scoring ability. Like, he can do it both ways. He can score, he can play make. And he is going to be just obviously a phenomenal addition. It's a fit for Dallas where there's a lot of Finnish players on the team already. When you think of Lindell and you think of Miro Heiskanen and you think of Roope Hintz, so he's going to fit in, seamlessly from that standpoint. As far as, it's become a little bit of a mini Helsinki, Texas, I guess you could say right now with the Dallas Stars and the way their lineup is coming together with so many Finnish-born players. Like I said, half a team Finland at this rate is going to be playing for on the Dallas Stars right now. Finland at the Olympics next year. But Alex, obviously, this was someone that we figured was going to get moved by the Carolina Hurricanes. And as for Carolina, and the focus is Dallas because they are now right there with anybody to win this Stanley Cup this year with the team they've got. And don't forget, Miro will come back at some point. Tyler Seguin is going to come back at some point. Like, it's just ludicrous how stacked they are, really, forwards and defense. And they've got, obviously, the goalie in Ottinger. But at the same point in time for Carolina, this has been a kind of a disastrous last 24 hours. They go from, Rantanen never fit in there. Didn't look like he was thrilled to be there. It looked like he was still reeling from being traded by Colorado. And now all of a sudden he's gone, and you're left, as a team that now, how many teams now are better than the Carolina Hurricanes on paper in the East and the West? A lot. And they've gone from still probably a solid contender to now, first round exit. It's to me, that looks very plausible in the Carolina Hurricanes' future right now. But Alex, your thoughts on the headline move of trade deadline day, Mikko Rantanen, a Dallas Star?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great move for Dallas. And not only the biggest thing was, like I said, it wasn't always about where is he going to land. It was where is he going to land and sign a deal with. That was the whole point of him even being facilitated and moved out of Carolina because couldn't strike a deal there. But signing that deal with Dallas, because Dallas is the perfect team fit for him. He's not going to be a guy who just, you put the puck on his stick and he does everything. He's got to have the pieces around him. Everybody was talking about him going to Utah. That would have been a solid fit. Everybody talking about him possibly in the offseason going to Chicago. That would have been a terrible fit because he can't be the man. He needs other people around him, and now he has that. Now the key will be for Dallas is moving forward. Can those younger guys like the Maverick Borks and then these other kids that are in the Texas organization, can they come up and fill those spots in the long term? But for right now, Dallas, with good reason, is the favorite to win it all, and they have to win the West. It's win the West or bust. There's none of this. Even if you go all the way down to 7 games, you play Vegas again, you play whomever, but you have to have the Western Conference Championship banner inside that arena come next October. Anything else short of that, this is a colossal failure. And you're not, of course, going to blow everything up. You still got time. You still got pieces. Jim Nill didn't have to sell off the farm to get Rantanen in. A 2026 first rounder and a 2027 first rounder. Even from them, it's going to be lower in the draft pool. Even though those are stronger draft classes, they keep talking about that as I was watching Sportnet this morning of how strong the 26 and 27 draft classes will be compared to this year in 25. So that's a reason why we're seeing a lot of those particular year picks being moved. But this is a great deal for Dallas, and like I said, they should be able to maybe offensively bully whoever they get in the first round. I was just talking about that on the Betcast last night, where the defensive shutdown series usually come, of course, in the conference finals, the final, even the second round. But the first round, you can get away with having a ton of offense and just overwhelming somebody. And Dallas can now pick whichever style they want to play once they get into the first round.
Yeah, no doubt. I like what the Avs have done. And we were talking about this in our group chat, and we'll get to them now next. Brock Nelson, a member of the Colorado Avalanche, now a trade later in the night, last night, from the New York Islanders. And they also, of course, Colorado just got Charlie Coyle from the Boston Bruins in the last hour. Good moves, and obviously they have a lot more depth now in the in their forward group, and certainly Coyle. You know what? Coyle is not consistently a top 6 or top 2 line center anymore, but now he'll be a 3rd line center in Colorado. I think he'll fit in very nicely there. I think that's the part of his career now where he's in his best fit. 3rd line center. He's in his 30s now. A lot of wear and tear, and now you can just be a nice depth center piece for this Colorado Avalanche team, play more in a checking role. They're not going to need his offense as much as the Boston Bruins did, because of what you've got as far as firepower is concerned up front, especially when you got guys like Drouin playing very well, Lehkonen up front for the Avs. So, like I said, it has become almost in the last 20. I think the headline of this last 24 hours is the arms race it's become between the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And if we're lucky enough to see them go head to head in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, what a fucking series that's going to be. I mean, my gosh, what an absolute war, and just what a showcase of just depth and skill and talent it's going to be, because both teams are loaded with it right now. The difference to me, though, and this will make all our, and we got a lot of Stars fans, and there's Matt Robinson. It's such a big day, and this is such a huge trade for Dallas getting Mikko Rantanen that even Matt Robinson poking his head in the chat here from New York City where he is obviously with taking on FDNY with his Reno Ice Raiders there. The difference to me still is going to be goaltending. Ottinger's had some blips in the playoffs, but this is a guy now that's had multiple playoff years, 2 conference finals appearances. I think a guy capable to finally take that final step, and I've still got him ranked the better goaltender than anybody that Colorado has, including Mackenzie Blackwood, who would be playing in the playoffs for the very first time in his career, and I think that could be the difference when it comes to a Stars and Avs series, but that's something we explore way down the road. But still, as far as Colorado's returns, Alex, the last 24 hours, no complaints with what they did.
No, absolutely. And then when you look at the recent move where they get Charlie Coyle, like I said, moving Middlestat out, like I said, we talk about how important it is to have quality center depth in the playoffs. That's the second and most important thing other than having a hot goaltender. Center depth down the middle. So to build upon that, like you said, now they're in an arms race with Dallas. They're also in an arms race with Winnipeg as well, who have been bolstering up on the back end. So now you offense in Colorado and Dallas, but then there's that third team in that same division, and their defense is what's being loaded up. So I think that's really the interesting storyline so far. Those 3 teams, and they're planning and building the way that their mode of attack will be once they get into the playoffs.
No doubt. And Winnipeg deserves some mention too. I like their moves are a little more, not the big names, the big splash of Colorado or Dallas, but they're great moves that made them tougher to play against, more physical. That's part of it too. You've got to have an intimidation factor in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You've got to make it a point to, hey, we're not going to be an easy team to push around because we've got that physical quotient. And when you add a Brandon Tanev who can give you a little offense too, in a bottom 6 forward role and plays extremely physical, of course, just like his brother, Chris Tanev. And then you bring in a Luke Schenn from the Nashville Predators, or from Pittsburgh, I should say. Nashville to Pittsburgh, now to Winnipeg, Luke Schenn. Good depth defenseman, great, the kind of playoff defenseman you want. He's going to shut it down in his own end. He's going to play sturdy, shut down D in his own zone, throw the body around, play physical, wear on the opposing players on the other team, wear them down with physicality, because that's what it is too. And we've seen this in the playoffs with teams like Vegas and Florida winning the Stanley Cup. You wear a team down physically in a best-of-7 series. That's part of the process of trying to win a Stanley Cup playoff series. You have to physically take it to your opponent, wear them down more than they wear you down. That's a big part of success at Stanley Cup playoff time. And I think with the Winnipeg Jets moves, Alex, they're in a spot where now they are more physical and they're going to play that pound it, physical, pound their opponent at every turn type of play to get them through. And of course, we know they've still got offensive capabilities when you see Connor and Scheifele and Ehlers and company. And again, with them, it's Hellebuck. It comes back to him so much because of the struggles he's had in the postseason in years past. But Winnipeg's better. That's the thing about this Central Division and how loaded it is. Colorado is absolutely better now than they were 24 hours ago. Winnipeg is better now than they were 24 hours ago. Dallas, it goes without saying, much better than they were 24 hours ago with Mikko Rantanen. That's what's going to make this playoff run in that division so exciting. But it's also bemoans the fact that this playoff format means at least one of those 3 great Central Division teams is out in the first round. Right. And that's absurd. I think I've been talking about that for a while now. I think we need the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6 format in the playoffs in each conference back again. But like I said, it's not going to be happening this year, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And like I said, I'm torn on it because there's holes in both formats. But like you said, you're just going to have years like this no matter what format you have. Excuse me, you're going to have, divisions just kind of just bulk up like this. And we've seen that was kind of the reason for getting rid of this format, because you don't want to have a year where you have 6-7 teams, damn near represent the majority of a postseason. If you have a division like this, for example, think about it right now, we're talking about 5, maybe even 6, obviously it's going to be more than likely 5 potentially out of the Central compared to the 3 in the Pacific. So you're going to always have that off balance at times. But the key is, looking at those other teams, in that Central that didn't really, or at least as of right now, haven't really made a lot of reloading moves. Of course, St. Louis, like I said, they're kind of on the fence, looking like they might be sellers. Minnesota, I'm still seeing some rumblings of things, but I haven't, seen nothing slam dunk of the nature that we've seen Colorado, Winnipeg or Dallas make. So that's the other interesting thing too. Could this now be where we know the top three teams in the Central? Could they shake out, and what does that do for the other two teams that are in that Central race that fall into the wild card mix?
Yeah, that's the point, Bruce. 100%. Too many rematches with the current playoff system. How many fucking times do we need to see Edmonton, Los Angeles, in the playoffs? And that's just one of many, and that we've that is because the format is what it is. You can only play in your division if you're the second and the third place team in your divisions, and that's why we get the same matchups, more often than not. So that's why we're ready for a playoff format shakeup. But again, doesn't look.
Yeah,
like
but you also don't want to. You also don't want a team below 500 sneaking in as an 8 seed anymore either. Like you had some dopey teams for a few years at even 7 seeds, depending on if you have a weaker conference in a year. So that's another thing.
And now the trade I want to talk about. This was one that was kind of interesting. Ottawa and Buffalo earlier today. I'm a Dylan Cousins fan. I have not lost hope in this kid. I think he just needs to get out of, it's kind of like an anchor around your neck when you're in Buffalo. Sometimes you just need to get the hell out of there and you become good again. Look at Jack Eichel. He's been healthy and he's been great in Vegas. There's other examples of it, no question. But when you look at, obviously, Dylan Cousins, came on the scene, phenomenal his very first year in Buffalo, and he's really had a setback, not only offensively, but just in all facets of his game. I think he'll get it back in Ottawa. I like that Ottawa has brought him in. He makes them a little grittier too, tougher to play against, has that physicality. He's dropped the gloves a few times. Hopefully the offense comes back a little bit more for him, and that scoring touch comes back for him in Ottawa. That's the part of the trade I like for Ottawa. What was the head scratcher is they had to part with Josh Norris in the deal. Josh Norris, a hell of a player, a bona fide, on a very good team, he's at the very least a second line center. Josh Norris, there's no doubt about that. And he's got great offensive instincts and upside, no doubt. And it was actually a very nice job by the under fire Kevin Adams, who a lot of people have not been happy with him in Buffalo this year, to get Josh Norris in a deal. But what was stunning about that, and I didn't love that Ottawa gave up him because, and Alex said this earlier, it's kind of a lateral move. Yes, you're better with Cousins, but you're worse without Norris. And Norris was a big, huge center with that team in their top six. Facility got a lot of the offense went through him. He was a point producer, won big faceoffs. Center ice is always a very important position, and he was a good one. So it felt like, Cousins is a nice ad, but boy, you lose a lot. And the ad of Cousins sometimes may have gotten outweighed by the departure and the loss of Josh Norris. And then you add on to that the response to this trade by the Ottawa Senators players in the dressing room today, including the captain, Brady Tkachuk, who was near tears talking about the loss of Josh Norris, saying he's my best friend. We've been together here on this team a long time. It's going to take me a while to kind of, come to terms with this, come to grips with it. Linus Ullmark's been there for half a season with the Ottawa Senators, and he's even, in this depressed, type of mindset, talking to the media today about losing Josh Norris. He's known him for like a handful of months. And even Linus Ullmark is talking about how just a huge loss in the dressing room and a presence that this is going to be for them, losing Josh Norris. So very well liked, kind of concerning that they were this down in the dumps, especially their captain, Brady Tkachuk, about this trade. And I keep thinking to myself, well, hold on now, guys. You're in a playoff spot right now. Got to shake this off. It's a business. It's a hard business. It's a cruel business. It's a harsh business. You're going to see players that are close with the team, and they're going to get dealt. It's a business at the end of the day. It sucks in this case because everyone seemed to like Josh Norris, but hey, you got to move on. And you can't let this be a negative mental emotion in your mind moving forward, because these are some of the most important games of the season coming up right now for the Ottawa Senators. You need to have a good mind. You need to have a positive frame of mind. So I'm a little concerned about this for Ottawa, at least in the initial games they play coming out of the trade deadline. just the emotional response and reaction, if you will, Alex, to the moving of Josh Norris in this deal with Buffalo. I mean, definitely it looked like it hit this team like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, how I found out about the trade was literally watching on SportsCenter. They were about to interview Kachuk, and I see his response, and then I had to stop and look at my phone to see what the trade, because the look on his face and the frustration and sadness made me think, like, did they just do some kind of massive trade and just sell right now? Like that's literally the way it seemed like. And then I look at the trade and I go, okay, Norris to Cousins, Gilbert, it's a lateral move. But clearly, you've upset the apple cart the way that, like I said, first you see and hear from Brady Kachuk, which I retweeted, by the way, at AXMA Sports. And then a few minutes later, they asked Linus Ullmark, he's, talking about, the room, says it sucks whenever trades like this are made, he says, but yeah, just tell the air was out of the room. And now here they go. They have to go early in the morning at home and take on a team that's trying to chase right behind them in the New York Rangers. I already took the Rangers plus 116 as soon as I saw that, because that's just if it's clearly this emotional to them to shake at the core right now, and they clearly weren't expecting him to be moved. Then you just wonder if for a moment maybe that rattles them. But like I said, in the long run, you have to shake this off. You got the guys you have. Like I said, Dylan Cousins is still a quality player who can give you some. He has some talent. It's been rough for him, but it's been rough for anybody playing him for the Buffalo Sabres, as you mentioned. So we'll see what happens, but it's just a really bad first response. And even Brady Kachuk says, I hate that this is my initial response to the trade, but that he was literally holding back, like he wanted to say something too, which, like I said, that's just it's not the way you want your captain and your number one goalie to be responding to making a deadline move.
I agree with that. And like I said, definitely, hopefully they can get through this. No question. Get past this quickly. I mean, obviously the first few days, no Josh Norris, you're going to notice it, especially when he was as well liked and respected, obviously, in the dressing room. But at the same point in time, got to move the fuck on. Unfortunately, it is a business. You got to get moving on and continuing on with your season. The games are paramount. Like I said, you don't want that negative, kind of mindset creeping in. You want to make sure that you're focused and playing your best hockey, and having a good frame of mind and mentality and a focus is a big part of that. So something to watch for with the Ottawa Senators. There are a couple of recent trades. I know there's one involving your Blackhawks here, Alex. A little bit more of a minor trade, but we'll once again
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Yes, indeed. The Blackhawks have gotten involved here in trade talks, trade movement. And yes, Peter Mrazek, you knew he was going to be traded. You could not keep Peter Mrazek. You've made it clear Soderblom and Spencer Knight, they're going to be your goalies moving forward, probably longer term too, as well. There was just no space for Peter Mrazek. Peter Mrazek, though, class act. I give this guy a ton of credit for the response yesterday, saying if I'm still here after Friday, I'll just be the great, sounding board, mentor, if you will, for these two young goalies. If I'm still here past Friday, although pretty much knew that probably wasn't going to be the case. But he gets moved from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Detroit Red Wings. Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith on their way to the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for an old bargain bin prop guy of mine, Joe Veleno, on his way to the Chicago Blackhawks. So as a Hawks fan, Alex, your thoughts on that trade?
Fantastic trade. Like you said, Peter Mrazek did his job in the years that he played with the Hawks. He was there to be the stopgap, be the number one guy, try to give some semblance of a structure in net in the middle of this rebuild, and commend him for that. Best wishes to him as he goes back to Detroit, a team that desperately needed some goaltending improvement, and they finally get it. Peter Mrazek's now the best goaltender in that Red Wings room as of the current moment. And you get rid of Craig Smith. Craig Smith, a kind of plug and play depth guy. He's somebody who Detroit can certainly value and need for the race. But to get Joe Veleno back for the Hawks, that'll be an interesting fit. Maybe he's a guy who can maybe gel with some of these young guys. Joe with Bedard, Joe with Nazer and Slaggert, and see where he fits in with these last 20-something games. And maybe the Hawks work with a deal after that. So I like to move both ways for the Hawks, and I really like to move for the Red Wings because they had to do something. You could not try to go into the rest of this race with the two goalies you have currently.
especially with what we've seen from Lyon and Talbot. And Lyon and Talbot have gotten worse, not better, in the last few weeks. And that's why Steve Yzerman steps up and addresses it. Now, again, you're going to need good Mrazek, and you're going to need healthy Mrazek moving forward. And there's a big question about whether you get good Mrazek or healthy Mrazek the rest of the season. But it's a chance you got to take, because you got to try to see, because if he is healthy and he can be on his game, he's had these red hot stretches of play in net before. It's worth a shot. You got to try to make your goaltending better if you're Detroit, based on where you are in the standings. And certainly they made an attempt to do that. So that's one of the trades that went down just now. And by the way, we've got, I'm just seeing if there's, it's a minor trade, but Cody Glass replaced from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the New Jersey Devils. And more Dallas news. Wyatt Johnston and the Dallas Stars are moving in on a 5-year, $8.4 million extension. So there you go. Jim Nill in the business of getting everybody signed long-term here for this Dallas team. Wyatt Johnston, who Carolina was definitely poking around Wyatt Johnston and trying to find out if they could get him in that Rantanen deal. I would never have put him in that deal with just how great a player he's turned out to be for the Dallas Stars. And yes, I like it. 5 years, $8.4 million. I think the number is solid. You got 5 years now more of Wyatt Johnston in Dallas. That's good work again by Jim Nill. And look at how great this kid has been for you. Look at the year last year. I know slow start this year, but that's a thing of the past. He is just absolutely cracking right now, rolling for the Dallas Stars at the right time of year, obviously, as we hit the home stretch of the regular season and going into the playoffs.
It's just incredible. I'm just looking at their Puckpedia right now, and the guys that will be gone after this: Ben, Granlund, Duchesne, Dadonov, all in their early 30s or mid 30s. This team will have space, and they have all of their core together for the next several years. Like this is great. If you're a Dallas Stars fan, you have to be thrilled because this team's going to be loaded for a while.
There's a good tweet here by Greg Wyshynski here talking about the Hurricanes. And we know this has been a black 24 hours for them, black cloud. They've essentially traded Marty Necas, Jack Drury, 2025 second, 2026 fourth round pick, Logan Stankoven, what they've gotten, I should say, Taylor Hall, 2026 Dallas first round. And so it's just one of these deals where,
Jesus, yeah. But you know what? But Carolina is a poorly run organization. And I talked about this when we did the Carolina preview about all the shit that was going on between them and the Chicago Wolves and how basically they just don't really even care about getting victories in their AHL department. They're just trying to develop guys and have them as, it's just a lot of flaws with this Carolina organization. And now, if they don't win here this year, next 2 years, we talked about it last night in the backcast. How long do you keep Brindamore around?
Yeah.
This is a team where if they end up having to hit the rebuild button in a couple of years, it could be a long time for Carolina before they get back to being at the top of the hill. So, I don't know what
they want to make anything of this season. They've got 30 minutes to do something about maybe a little bit more depth scoring because they don't have enough now.
Yep.
Well, you need a scorer now. What's Aho's going to do all the scoring for you in the postseason now? And I like Jarvis. I like some of their players, but they need a bona fide. They thought they had that in Mikko Rantanen, but it was a bad fit. Wasn't thrilled about being there. They figured they weren't going to re-sign him. Scoring is a big time issue here right now with them. So, like I said, and the goaltending with Freddie Anderson if he gets the start, I'm going to be shocked in the first game. They got to give Kochetkov at least the first chance, but we've been there before with Carolina. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. So, like I said, and remember, this is not the defense as far as shutting you down that we've seen in the past because Pesce was moved in the offseason. Slavin's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, you've got certainly a situation for Carolina where that's a weaker blue line as far as shutting down the opponent. And like I said, there's definitely now a lot of things that are going to have to be done if they want to salvage this season coming up. Because like I said, I think there's every team in the Atlantic Division part of the Eastern Conference is better than Carolina right now. Toronto, Florida, Tampa Bay, and it's not even an issue, not even an argument. And then, of course, you've got on the Atlantic side, the Rangers are a lot closer to Carolina right now. even with Jack Hughes, it's hard to say New Jersey's better than Carolina with no Jack Hughes, and who knows how long Dougie Hamilton's out, but it's not like Carolina is just huge leaps and bounds better than New Jersey right now either. So, like I said, there's all kinds of issues right now with this Carolina team. It's been a tough situation because, look, they didn't anticipate that Rantanen was not going to be a great fit there, not going to have a huge burning desire to re-sign there long term. But at the same point in time, that's what you're dealt with now, and you got to unfortunately somehow maneuver with it if you're Eric Tulsky.
If you had to bet right now on that winner of that series, Carolina versus New Jersey, who would you take?
See, that's the one opponent Carolina would have a chance to get through in a first round, but not for sure is that a gimme by any stretch.
It wouldn't be easy either. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Carolina, I don't know. Carolina just seems to be one of these kind of it's a house of cards. Somebody can blow them over.
That's the team they could beat in the first round for sure. And they are a good first round. First round is their thing. They love winning in the first round, and then that's when things kind of fall apart after that. But like I said, there's certainly some work to be done here for this team, and we'll see if they are capable there of doing it to kind of clean things up. There's really not much I wanted to say about last night because I really wanted to make this focused on all the trades that have gone down here in the early part of the day. Other than to say thanks again to everyone that joined us on the BetCast. We had a couple of good live bets. We all took Dallas live when they were down 2-1 to Calgary, and they came back and they won in overtime with the Jason Robertson goal. That was great to see, no question. We hit the draw pregame with Montreal Edmonton. That was good to see. We had a couple people hit a bunch of live team total overs with Colorado last night in their romp over San Jose. I know we all jumped on the second period team total over 1.5, but I think Alex tacked on a third period team total over as well, and that cashed as well, as it was an onslaught against the San Jose Sharks in a truly miserable spot for the San Jose Sharks. So we had some good plays there last night on the BetCast, and we thank everybody that is a Patreon member for being subscribed to the Patreon page at patreon.com/Ice Guys. And thanks to all for joining us last night on another very enjoyable BetCast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great time. And like I said, we were able to get some good live bets in. Like I said, we're kind of shaping up and getting ready for what was going to be a busy day today. So, of course, as we get into the card today, we will jump in with any other breaking news as we get down to what we got about another 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the actual deadline hits. But then, of course, we know there'll be trades that will be processed and coming in. So it'll probably be within the next hour and a half. We'll still see a few more deals coming through the wire and so forth.
No doubt. All right, let's get into it. And we've got Friday games to discuss, and it's a Friday card. The trade deadline is here, but that didn't stop the NHL from scheduling one of their busier Fridays of the regular season to this point. Make sense. But we will begin with the Detroit Red Wings taking on the Washington Capitals. We've got Washington minus 225 home favorites. The total here sitting at 6, shaded to the over, 6.5 in some spots, but majority of these books do have the 6 shaded to the over here when it comes to the Red Wings and the Capitals. Obviously, this is one of these days where scale back on the units. It's what I'm going to be doing. There's going to be obviously trade activity, players moving in, players moving out, check lineups. I can't stress that enough on a day like this. Make sure you know who's in. There's going to be players that are able to arrive at their new destination with their new team sooner than others, mostly because of travel, distance, and visa issues, etc. So this is all important stuff to make note of for sure in regards to this. When you look at Detroit and Washington, Detroit has obviously hit a bit of a speed bump in their push for the playoffs, as they have dropped a few games in a row, 4 in fact, back-to-back to Columbus, Carolina, and Utah, losing back-to-back at home. Washington suffered their first 3-game losing streak of the season, but they have bounced back with wins in each of their last 2 games. Both of those wins, though, go into overtime or a shootout against the Rangers and the Senators in the last 2 games. We'll see how they fare here. Detroit, honestly, has played Washington pretty tough in recent head-to-head meetings. They've split the last 6 meetings. Detroit did win one of the games here in Washington, lost the other 2, but both in overtime by a score of 4-3. Detroit did win the previous meeting this year between the 2 teams, a 4-2 Red Wings victory against the Capitals back in December at Little Caesars Arena. That was a pretty tough spot for Washington. I remember they were coming off, I think, playing Toronto or somebody on the Saturday, and it was a Sunday game, and Detroit kind of pounced on them there in that one. So a bit of a tough spot that was. We'll see if Detroit, rallies the troops here. I don't know if I've got the guts to take Detroit. I don't right now, but I will take the draw in this game. We've got a lot of things that do point possibly to this game going to overtime. Competitive games. Detroit, like I said, has played Washington tough. Washington's gone past regulation now in 2 straight games. 4 of the last 10 overall games for Detroit have gone past regulation. Logan Thompson is in net here for the Capitals. Cam Talbot getting the nod for the Detroit Red Wings. We think, actually, it's not confirmed on the Talbot end of it, but it is projected that he's going to be the starter. For the first time in ages, Washington held their opponent below 3 goals. And that was the 3-2 win against the New York Rangers the other night. But there had been a pretty strong pattern of Washington giving up at least 3 goals. So, I think there's some value with the Red Wings here. The points are more valuable, I should say, to them, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, because Washington is in such a good spot. I would say, though, if I bet Detroit in any form, it's not going to be the money line. It's going to be that team total with the minus 105. It's a pretty good price. Again, Washington had given up 3 goals or more in 10 straight, I believe it was, but now it's 10 of 11 after that New York Rangers loss. So might sprinkle that team total over on Detroit here. But I like the draw. I think the draw very much has a chance here in this one. Alex, what do you think here? Detroit, Washington.
Yeah, so I grabbed first period over 1.5 minus 130. And then I also did grab a little bit of the draw plus 345 available at Bet Online. Like I said, of course, we are keeping things kind of small, and I'm really sticking mostly with totals throughout the day because, like I said, we get to see what's going on with the lineups and changes and different things. So I can't imagine it would be Mrazek starting for the Wings, even though, like I said, that's a short flight from Chicago to Detroit. That would, or Chicago to Washington, not the a long trip. So maybe he could end up arriving there, but obviously could see where Talbot would get the start. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. This definitely fits on the draw season criteria. Both teams desperately needing the points. So give me the draw and the first period over.
Yeah, I can get a better price with the draw than Detroit money line. That's why I said, you know what? I'm just going to bet the draw. If I like Detroit, and I probably will sprinkle on that Red Wings team total over 2.5, because it's been pretty consistent lately that Washington's given up 3 goals to the opponent of late, and that's all you need from Detroit. And the one thing we like Detroit offensively. Where have the issues been for the Red Wings? Yeah, keeping the puck out. They've given up 5, 10, 14, 16 goals in their last 4 games. And I'm tacking on the over by Fecta too, but more so on the first period over because I do know Washington and Detroit have been trending first period over of late between these 2 teams. So over by Fecta as well, but more so
and of course
over here.
Of course, Ovi last goal now. Because Caps are a heavy favorite, you're only getting them seeing plus 700, plus 650, plus 600. Right. Still worth a shot, but that's the range we're seeing now. When Caps are favorites, the Ovi last goal prop is somewhere between 6-1 to 750. When the Caps are dogs, we're seeing plus 800, plus 900, even 10-1. So, like I said, I'll be betting that every Capitals game moving forward, but this just kind of a frame of reference of what prices you'll get depending on how the Caps are priced.
Yeah, no question. All right, Winnipeg, New Jersey. No player props today for me. Oh, maybe a couple, but not many because of all the player movement today moving forward. But Ovechkin last goal, like I said, can't argue with that. Winnipeg, New Jersey. We've got Winnipeg minus 125, road favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this one with the Jets and the Devils. I'm going to take Winnipeg here. The price is cheap. New Jersey's obviously not playing great. They've got obviously the injuries that they are dealing with now as well. The Jack Hughes injury out for the rest of the season, as it was announced earlier this week, not to mention the status of Dougie Hamilton. Now, Dougie Hamilton, it sounds like it's day-to-day for him. They avoided, something severe as far as he is concerned, but doesn't look like he's going to play. And one of their better shutdown defensemen, too, Jonas Siegenthaler. We haven't talked about him enough. He's been out recently for the Devils as well. So you can see they're scuffling. They've obviously gone 4-6 in their last 10, back-to-back losses to end their 5-game road trip with Vegas and Dallas, losing both of those games. It is back-to-back for Winnipeg, but they saved Connor Hellebuck here for this matchup against the Devils. They gave Eric Comrie the start last night. Jacob Markstrom projected in net for the New Jersey Devils here in this one. We did talk about how Winnipeg had some struggles with the Islanders, and they had some struggles at times with the Flyers, even though they did beat the Flyers last night 4-1. But they've definitely fared better against New Jersey, where they have won 7 of the last 10 meetings overall versus the New Jersey Devils. So, yeah, Winnipeg for me here, minus 125. That's it. Nothing on the total. Alex, what do you think here? Jets, Devils.
Yeah, that's a 5.5 that's heavily shaded to the under. And I was thinking, okay, I wasn't aware that Martin Brodeur was coming back for the New Jersey Devils. I will be looking for a live over because this is just a crazy number. We should be able to get 4.5 at plus money pretty easily if we wait a few minutes into the contest. So that's my target. I'm looking for a live over here. Nothing pregame.
I would say try to wait for the 4.5, because the one thing I'll say about the Jets is that they have gone under in 6 straight games. 6 straight Jets games have gone under the total entering tonight. But some of those unders did hit 5. Like the Ottawa game was 4-1. The Philly game last night was 4-1. The Islander game was 3-2. So some of those under 5.5s were 5 as far as total goals, but none of them have gotten to 6 of late. So we'll see how that goes tonight with Winnipeg and New Jersey. All right, Utah and Chicago. Next up here, we've got the Utah Hockey Club minus 170 road favorites here in the Windy City, and the total sitting at 6, pretty much 6 across the board. There are some 6.5s, but more so 6 is what we're looking at here with the total in this game. This is a situation where for Chicago, I think I'm starting to get a pattern of what we might expect from this team moving forward. I'm thinking Soderblom, first period and full game overs. Not that he's been bad, but he's been a little more susceptible. And maybe with Spencer Knight, the opposite. That's kind of what I'm thinking here with Utah and Chicago. Because obviously we saw Spencer Knight in net against LA. He was absolutely fantastic in that game. No question. It was absolutely spectacular. Now, that game, I want to point out with LA and Chicago on Monday night, despite the great play from Spencer Knight, still ended up going over in the first period, and the full game pushed because it landed right on 6. But that was all Chicago carrying the offensive load in that game against the LA Kings to help with the first period over, full game over in that game. They've overall gone 3-0-1 to the over in their last 4 games. It's one of these games, though, where, again, if Knight's playing like that again, can we count on Utah to score? Utah's been better offensively during the 4-1 run. Obviously, 6-1 against Minnesota at home. They beat Detroit 4-2 on the road in their last game. We'll see how this one plays out here with Utah and Chicago tonight. Utah's in good form, obviously making this playoff push. Every game is significant here for them. But certainly I like what I saw from Spencer Knight. Not a goalie I'm interested in laying a number like this on the road against based on the way he played for the LA Kings. This is one where I'm going to look for live overs, but I could see it starting off slowly. I'm not rushing to bet pregame overs with Spencer Knight in net if he's anywhere close to as good as he was against the Los Angeles in that first start as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. It sure looks like we're going to get probably a goalie rotation moving forward. Sorensen's pretty much going to go back and forth between Spencer Knight and Arvid Soderblom moving forward. So I target something live, but nothing really much pregame here. If you really want to be bold and think that, hey, the good karma and the great, beginning of the Spencer Knight era in Chicago can continue, you can lay a reasonable minus 126 on Utah team total under 3.5. Like, I don't think it's a given that Utah's getting to 4 goals. Now, they do have to clean things up, Chicago. I don't know if they want to shield or, expose, I should say, Spencer Knight to 40 fucking shots on goal every night like they did against the Los Angeles Kings. That's not the recipe for success. But it does show you how good the kid can be. He can face 40 shots and only give up 1. So I'm interested in that look, actually, because I feel that's maybe a little bit safer than maybe Utah or Chicago money line is Utah maybe staying under 3.5. Utah could win this 3-1, 3-2 still. So that's something I'm got my eye on. I'm not a big team total under guy, but that is of interest to me. Alex, what do you think here with this one, Utah, Chicago?
I went team total over 2.5 minus 120 with the Blackhawks. They're running Vermelka right back out. after last night, I guess they said, "Hey, we paying you all this money for 5 years. Get right back out there to it. We're not looping it around." And obviously, of course, this game means a lot for Utah. They're battling for their playoff lives. So you run with your top goalie, but like you said, it is Spencer Knight in the goal. So this is like I said, we saw the energy boost throughout that whole lineup with Spencer Knight in that. And like you said, they still have to clean up things on defense, but now you got a guy that you can rely on where if there is a defensive breakdown, a 2-1-1 is not automatically going to turn into a goal. You got a guy who can give you a chance and make a few saves and some big saves. So looking with the Hawks team total over 2.5, I am on the first period over in this game as well. Like I said, he gave up a nod goal against LA. He's that's something we've seen from Spencer Knight, even in his Florida days. He would give up that odd goal early, and then he corrects himself, and he's probably one of the better guys as far as getting back on track after giving up a goal. So I definitely would look for that. Also would look for both teams to score in the first period as well. So first period looks and team total over for the Hawks tonight. Those are my plays.
The Chicago now, that's 2 in a row. They've hit the first period over. It looked like we were starting to cool off again. And I think it's now, 20-5, something like
21,
that?
21-5, the last 26.
21-5. Yeah, I might dabble in just the first period over. No full game for me.
Yeah, no full game for me.
First period over, yeah. But first period over, yeah. It's starting to heat up again, guys. We thought we were done. Just when I thought I was out, you pulled me back in this damn first period overrun. They're starting to heat up again. And still, it's 21-5 in the last 26 games, which is still damn impressive. So, yeah, the first period over, I can get talked into that. All right, Minnesota, Vancouver. We've got the Canucks minus 125 home favorites here, 5.5 the total, shaded to the under here in this game. This actually does feel like it's an under game, quite honestly. This feels like low and slow waiting to happen between these two teams. Minnesota, obviously, still in a situation where there's no Jonas Brodin, Joel Eriksson, Kirill Kaprizov, Kevin Lankinen in net for Vancouver, Philip Gustafsson for Minnesota. We'll have to see. Obviously, Quinn Hughes had an injury setback, did not play against Anaheim. We'll have to see if he returns tonight, but no determination has been made on that. And Vancouver's obviously on paper a worse defensive or offensive team when Quinn Hughes is not loading things up from the blue line and starting the rush, starting the attack. Minnesota, how about 9-1 over the Vancouver Canucks in the last 10 head-to-head meetings between these two teams? And when you look at this Vancouver team, they had the 3-game win streak to begin February: Colorado, San Jose, and Toronto. They lost 2 in a row. They beat LA in overtime, lost 2 after that. They did beat Anaheim 3-2, and they did outplay Anaheim heavily, 36-16 in shots. But like I said, it was definitely a struggle to get past the Anaheim Ducks in that game, even though they eventually did, and even though Anaheim was on the second night of a back-to-back games. You look at these matchups, too, in Vancouver between these two teams, 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, 3-2, all of them unders. So this is an under for me. A sprinkle on the under. That's right. Don't bet many of these, but this does feel like it's a lower scoring battle. We've got Lankinen, obviously, for Vancouver in good form. Gustafsson's capable, especially against a struggling offense. So the under 5.5 here, it might be worth a look in this game. And I like Minnesota in the draw split. I mean, I see that favorite price tag next to Vancouver. I'm always interested in going against it right now. So Minnesota and the draw are of interest for me as well in this one. Alex, what do you think here? Wild Canucks.
Yeah, I just have Minnesota circled in game. If Vancouver hops out and gets a 1-0 lead, I think Wild could bounce back and get a win here. So maybe a little sprinkle pregame on Wild money line at plus 105, but add a little bit more on kind of the same approach we took last night on the betcast with Detroit. Of course, it didn't come to fruition, and all the favorites won last night. Hopefully, that won't be the case tonight, though. But like I said, just kind of want to see the pace of play first. But it's always dicey when Vancouver is a favorite, even at home. And especially with the Wild having a good track record against them.
We have ourselves potentially some breaking news as the trade deadline, by the way, has hit. It's past 3 p.m. Eastern time, so we have hit the trade deadline now. But that doesn't mean we've heard the last of the trades or the last of the deals. No. We still could hear some things filter through in the 30 minutes to an hour following the trade deadline, which often happens because it has to go through the league offices for trades to be finalized. So you often hear finalized trades after the deadline. But Elliot Friedman reporting there could be something once again brewing in Florida.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Elliot Friedman, not confirmed yet, not a done deal, but Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers is a possibility. Not done yet, but apparently the wheels are in motion and a deal is being discussed between the Boston Bruins for their captain, Brad Marchand, with the Florida Panthers. Whoa, wow. Indeed. And again, we will, if we have anything more to add, if we can get confirmation that this is a done deal before the end of the show, we will certainly pass it along. Wow.
Yeah, that's big. And we can talk about some guys who won't be traded. I'm seeing some lists for the Montreal Canadiens. Both Joel Armia and David Savard will be kept. Brock Besser staying put in Vancouver, and Ryan Donato staying put with Chicago.
Yeah, there we go. And by the way, it was looking more and more like Ryan Donato was going to stay put with the Chicago Blackhawks, looking more and more like they were going to try real hard to be able to re-sign him. So definitely something to pay attention to for sure. And by the way, I want to mention another trade we didn't get, but it was a decent one for Columbus. Columbus has been quiet today, but nice little under the radar, good depth signing up front. Luke Cunnin, multifaceted player. Yes, he can score just a bit, but more so great defensively, does a lot of little things well, good on the forecheck, has a physical component. So Columbus made that move. I like it for them. But again, we'll keep you up to date on this Marchand to the Florida Panthers possibility. Again, not confirmed yet, but we will see as later on in the show if this does indeed become an official trade. All right, we got 2 games left. St. Louis Blues taking on the Anaheim Ducks. We've got St. Louis minus 150. Road favorites in this game, the total 5.5 pretty much across the board. St. Louis has been very quiet, if you've noticed here today so far, for a team that is right there just outside the Western Conference wildcard playoff race. And apparently it's finalized. I'm just seeing it now. TSN saying that it is going to happen. Florida Panthers will acquire Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins. I don't know about that, Aaron, as far as that might turn him into a Panthers fan or make him like the Panthers, because Aaron's a big Bruins fan. But, you got some pretty big-time history with that team. But nevertheless, yeah, you're cheering for Brad Marchand. That's what you're doing for sure. No question about that. So, yeah, no doubt. I think that's a situation where, it's an interesting move. It's a guy with a Stanley Cup experience and knows what it takes to win one of these, joining a team that's obviously going for their second straight Stanley Cup. You look at the fit. Yeah, people will say, did they need to add Brad Marchand? No, but you're certainly still a little bit better with him. Certainly with the experience. Has he had his best year in Boston? No, but certainly he's going to give you the Stanley Cup experience that you're looking for. And like I said, you're going to fit him in still in what's now a pretty solid top 6, especially when you see a guy like Mackie Samoskevich starting to really filter or get it going offensively. So like I said, a great dressing room guy, no doubt, Aaron. He's going to fit in nice with the personality that he is, a leader on and off the ice, no doubt. Yeah, he's had some big time bad blood and bad history with Sam Bennett. So the meeting of those two when Brad arrives in Florida with his new team should be very, very interesting. Yeah. But this tells you anything can happen, Alex. We know the Bruins and Panthers have had some wars in the division over the years, and now their captain is a member of the Florida Panthers. Gotta love sports.
I would love to know what the hell the return's going to be on this, and just I don't know. It just, like I said, it's weird when you have an interdivisional trade of this magnitude, like you said, a very key piece going within the division, and that's something you don't see too often. But obviously, like I said, for all that Marchand has done with the Bruins, he deserves a chance to go somewhere for one more cup run if that is the case. So like I said, we'll see what pans out from it.
No doubt. Getting back now to Blues and Ducks here with this one. St. Louis is not a team I'm of interest fading, but there's a pretty good chance we're going to see Joel Hofer tonight in net for the St. Louis Blues. At least it looks like that right now. Lukas Dostal will be in net here for the Anaheim Ducks. Not really a surprise. Lower body injury suffered by John Gibson the other night against the Vancouver Canucks. So he will be out of the lineup. Dostal will get the start here for the Ducks in this one. Colton Parayko, the big loss for St. Louis, obviously. Really unfortunate to hear that with this great push they've made to get back into the hunt. And now they lose one of their best defensemen, Colton Parayko, for the next 6 weeks with the scope on his left knee. Just very unfortunate considering just how well the St. Louis Blues have played lately and how hard they fought, to get back into the playoff race. That's certainly going to hurt them a little bit. If it's Hofer, I'm not going to take St. If it's Hofer, I might actually take Anaheim team total over in this one, quite honestly. One thing we have seen, Hofer gave up 6 against the Dallas Stars, and that was the one game they lost, St. Louis, in their last 6 games when Hofer got the start against Dallas. Now, Anaheim is no Dallas. We do have to keep that in mind, but still, the Anaheim team total might get there. St. Louis has owned this series. They've won 8 straight head-to-head versus the Anaheim Ducks, and they've scored 14 goals in the last 3 head-to-head games combined, and they've won 4 straight here at the Honda Center over Anaheim. So some strong series history. Like I said, I'm not fading St. Louis, but I get a little concerned if Hofer's in net because right now, with the way Jordan Binnington's playing, it's a bigger drop-off, not because Hofer's really playing a lot worse. It's more so Binnington's playing at the top of his game, and he's played that way now for quite a few weeks going back to the Four Nations face-off tournament where he was tremendous for Canada. So from that standpoint, St. Louis and Anaheim here in this matchup. Don't want to fade the Blues, but minus 150 with Hofer in net. Can't take him at that price either. Alex, what do you think here at St. Louis, Anaheim?
One thing pregame here, first period over. I laid $1.12 at FanDuel, over 1.5. Like I said, this will be a game we watch and kind of go back and forth. If we see where maybe St. Louis has a little bit of push, if Hofer's playing well, make some saves early, then maybe we can take a shot with something in game. But just going with the first period over for the pregame.
Another trade.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Well, a big, physical, tough, nasty blue line to play against just got tougher and bigger. The Toronto Maple Leafs have acquired Brandon Carlo from the Boston Bruins. So there you go. Another trade inside the division for Don Sweeney. He's just
pollinating the Atlantic.
Improved talent for the Atlantic Division rivals, isn't he? Brad Marchand to Florida, and now here's Brandon Carlo, one of the obviously counted upon defensemen for Boston, on his way to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, this is going to be a terrible rebuild for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
I can just feel it. I can just feel it.
Yeah, full-on fire sale indeed. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know about if it's going to mean jack shit for them to finally get over the hump, Toronto, but this is going to be a nasty, physical, just bruising team to play against in the Stanley Cup playoffs, this Toronto Maple Leafs team. So, DW, we can't do anything about the volume, man. It is what it is. All I can say is, turn down your speakers or whatever you're listening to some way, and that's the way we'll do it. When we see there's breaking news, that's going to give you a few seconds to adjust the volume before we play the bumper. But, we can't adjust it mid-show with how loud it is. But as far as that trade is, it's a good addition here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And like I said, Boston, oh, yeah, Aaron, you're right. I just threw up in my – I mean, yeah, it's a tough day to be a Bruins fan. You're not used to this bullshit. What the hell do we – if you're a Bruins fan, you're saying, fuck this Sellers bullshit. We don't know what that's all about. We know nothing about this kind of stuff.
Everybody's got to go through it sometime.
Yeah. I mean, even Alex, he had all those great Stanley Cup years, and now all of a sudden, he's had to deal with some real tough down years here of late. So from that standpoint, it is what it is. It's Boston's turn to feel a little pain, and certainly they're feeling that here today just a little bit. And this clear move by Don Sweeney. Yeah, we're waving the white flag. We know we're still in the race, but personnel-wise, they're not in the race right now after the moves they've made here today. It's going to be fade Bruins moving forward now.
How does Jeremy Swayman feel?
Reasonable. Yeah.
How does Jeremy Swayman feel after signing that contract, seeing this? He's got to be like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I know. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Good. It's just, wow. Boston, a busy team for all the reasons. If you're a fan of a team, you want them to be busy to improve the team, and you're going for a Stanley Cup. You don't want the Boston way of being busy here on trade deadline day. But it is what it is. It's got to be done. You're right. And because I know Jimmy Murphy, our good friend, has been preaching for years. They just have been just not willing to say we're blowing it up and we're rebuilding. And now today is the day that Boston is finally saying, hey, that's what we're doing. All right, next up, our final game. Oh, by the way, this is the one prop I really like, and it's situational prop. It's going to be the bargain bin as well for me in the segment. Cam Fowler return to Anaheim for the St. Louis Blues, a place that meant the world to him. How special would it be for him to go back to Anaheim here, first game back to Anaheim, now as a member of the St. Louis Blues, and find the back of the net? And how can I turn down plus 825 for him to score a goal here tonight? So there you go. I'll give it away right now. That's also my bargain bin special of the night for later in the show. Just for him to get a point is plus 140, plus 142. I think that's probably worth a look here as well. All right, final game of this Friday slate. It is Pittsburgh and Vegas. We've got Vegas minus 250, home favorites. The total here, 6.5. This is just a straightforward. Give me Vegas team total over 3.5. I'm betting team total overs against Pittsburgh at every reasonable opportunity. The only fear I have here with Vegas is that, you're just drilled Toronto the other night. Don't be flat. Don't have one of these Vegas home games where you're sleeping a little bit. We have seen some of these from the Vegas Golden Knights, especially after a big-time win. And Pittsburgh's not that team anymore that when Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are coming to town, it gets the opponent juiced up. That's not the case anymore with Pittsburgh's struggles right now. But I think Vegas certainly can find the back of the net on this Pittsburgh D, and the price is reasonable enough for me to continue doing what I've been doing lately, and that's taking the opposition team total over repeatedly against this miserable Penguins defensive outfit. So Vegas team total over 3.5, minus 130 for me in this one. Alex, what do you think here? Final game, Pittsburgh, Vegas.
Yeah, it was a little addition by subtraction from the Pittsburgh Penguins. They sent Anthony Beauvillier to Washington for a second-round pick. I just thought that was funny. This game's a pass for me. I'm not even going to lay 140 with Vegas to try to score 4 goals because, like you said, maybe this is a game where they get out to a 2-0, 3-0 lead and they sit on it. Yeah. So, I try not to bet anything with Penguins right now. This game's a pass.
Yeah, on a day like today, it's not the worst idea in the world to pass. Other than the Boston game where the Penguins only gave up 3, this Pittsburgh Penguins team has now given up 4 goals or more to the opposition in 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 games. So that's what we're banking on tonight, that Vegas is able to get to 4 as well. Hanifin props make sense. Hanifin has been just lighting it up as far as point production from the blue line for the Golden Knights of late. So we'll see if that continues here tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights in that one. Goaltending, we don't have confirmation, I believe, yet for Pittsburgh, but it is going to be Ilya Samsonov for Vegas. And that's another thing that I factored in, that because it's Samsonov in net, Vegas may have to do a little bit more scoring tonight to win the game. So that's even more reason that Vegas may not be able to sit back on a 2-0 or 3-0 type lead tonight. So Vegas team total over here for me, 3.5 with the Penguins and the Golden Knights. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. And I actually leaned over by Fecta as well, because I think Pittsburgh can score in that game a little bit. Samsonov was rough in his last start, and he's not Aiden Hill right now. And it's not that Samsonov's terrible. He did have a bad last start. He's been kind of okay up and down prior to that. But Aiden Hill's playing like Stanley Cup final Aiden Hill 2 years ago, or Stanley Cup champion Aiden Hill 2 years ago. So that is something to keep in mind. So Pittsburgh might be able to score. Might look at it over by Fecta there as well. All right. Shout out to everyone in the chat. 446 live viewers. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And like I said, it's a busy show, heads on a swivel. You're trying to also keep an eye on the last flurry of trades that come in post-deadline here on this busy trade deadline day. And it looks like before we get to the ads, and obviously bargain bin special tonight and best bets, it looks like we might have another deal involving the Colorado Avalanche. Boy, they've been busy today. My goodness, and it looks like they have just maybe made another deal.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Eric Johnson. What's old is new again. It looks like Eric Johnson could be back with the Colorado Avalanche. Now, he's at the stage of his career where now he's just, a bottom pair defenseman. but he's a guy that was very well liked in the Avalanche dressing room. They know him well. He was there when they won the Cup a couple of years ago with the Colorado Avalanche. So it's just one of these deals where it's like putting that comfortable blanket back over you. It makes you feel good. You're used to it, and you're just better off for it. That's probably what this is for getting Erik Johnson back here with Colorado, Alex. They know him well. He was a good dressing room guy. Why not? And you're not going to have to pay much for him.
Exactly. Yeah. Some locker room. He's more of a locker room guy at this point. Like I said, depth leader, role leader, good guy to have in the practices. Like those little things when you're going through the journey of a playoff run. And like I said, having a guy. We talked about the inverse of that when you have a guy you like that goes away in Ottawa, how it can look. So maybe there's just a little bit of a feel good mojo just bringing in a guy like Erik Johnson from Philly.
Yeah, no doubt. Hopefully feel good stuff for our bets and coming up here on this Friday slate. But we do want to remind you, patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month. We thank everybody that is a Patreon member that joined us on the Patreon exclusive live betcast last night. We thank you very much for that. We also want to point out that our next Patreon exclusive live betcast, and really our next betcast period in the month of March, it's also a Patreon exclusive live betcast, and it's Tuesday, March 25th. So that is your next opportunity to join us on a betcast, Patreon exclusive. So you got lots of time. That's still over a couple of weeks away. Later on in the month, that'll be our next betcast. So make sure you sign up. $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys. You get goalie charts, totals charts, our daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page, bonus content, and of course, access to our exclusive live betcasts. Not only the one later this month, here at the end of March, but we're going to have a bunch April, May, and June for the rest of the regular season and the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're even toiling with the idea of doing 2 betcasts a week, going forward in April and May. But one of them might be shorter. Like for the one, we might just do the early games on the betcast and not stay for the late ones. That which we can handle because it's 7 o'clock and you're out by like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. A nice little mini 3-hour betcast. That might be what we do. We'll do one like for the whole night and then one that's just a little bit shorter. But we might expand to 2 betcasts per week in April and beyond. Obviously, Stanley Cup playoffs, we'll have a ton of betcasts as well. And then I like when we get to the conference finals where our betcasts are for the one standalone game. You just focus on the one game. It's 2.5, 3 hours, and those are good as well. So we've got tons of betcast fodder coming your way the rest of the season once we get into April and May. So the point of it all is sign up, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month.
Also, a big update with the goalie charts coming tonight, of course. We want to wait for all the trades, all the call-ups to get decided, and then we'll have everything updated fully for that as far as goalie charts go. Also want to check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. 5 days left to save 15% off of all items in the store. Hit the redeem button at the homepage, add all your items to the cart, and 15% will be taken out at checkout. Shout out to, we had one person buy a whole lot of stuff from the store yesterday. Shout out to them. We've had merch flying off of those shelves right now. A lot of sizes coming back in, a lot of new designs as well. So check it out, please, and save 15% right now. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, make sure you check it out. All right, we got Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. bacon and eggs, thunder and lightning, Mario and Luigi, a hot dog with fries, Ian and Alex B. That's right, everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Shout out to all our great sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc. Get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code ICEGUYS at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night for this Friday 6-game slate on trade deadline day. Alex, bargain bin special, what do you like?
I just want to give a quick PSA. Check on your Boston Bruins friends, because Bruins Twitter's in fucking shambles right now over the moves that have
It's
been
like
made.
culture shock for them. What is this shit?
Yeah.
Feeling away. This guy. Do we even have a team anymore? That's what they're thinking right now. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Let's go on home. The 1901 West Madison, Utah taking on Chicago, and a kid that's moving up on the top line for the Blackhawks, Colton Dock. He's been, finding his way around the front of the net, finding the puck on his stick. Hopefully he can get one in the back of the net tonight for the Hawks. You can get him plus 500. I'm seeing at FanDuel plus 550. I'm seeing plus 600 available also at Bet365. So shop around for that. We go with plus 550 on Colton Dock. What's up, Doc? Get a goal here for the Chicago Blackhawks. That is my Friday bargain bin special.
All right, there you go. Colton Dock for the Chicago Blackhawks for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night. Mine, you guys know it already. Cam Fowler, St. Louis Blues, plus 825 in his return to Anaheim for the first time since the trade to St. Louis. Cam Fowler for the St. Louis Blues, plus 825 for my bargain bin special of the night. And just a few notes about the trade deadline before we get to best bets. Just as far as players that are staying put, Brock Besser staying in Vancouver. No deal involving Brock Besser. Chicago has the big rig Pat Maroon and Ryan Donato still with the team after the deadline. Braden Shen staying in St. Louis with the Blues. No deal involving him. The Oilers don't appear to be making any more moves. Flames don't appear to be making any more moves. So it looks like that's the latest there as far as the trade deadline is concerned.
Nothing on Alec Martinez
last night. Yeah, Alec Martinez exactly staying there as well. And like I said, Edmonton's move was last night, and it was a good one, actually. Jake Wallman, a guy that they need some help on the blue line right now, especially if Ekholm's going to miss some time. So that was the move they made, obviously, yesterday to shore up that part of their team. All right, best bets to wrap up this edition of the show. Alex, what do you like here for your Friday best bet?
Yeah, let's go with that first period over in D.C. We got Detroit Red Wings, Washington Capitals. Like both teams need points. Both teams need to get off into a hot start in this contest. Like I said, both been kind of slumping and had their battles in the last week or so. Let's go with the first period over. Red Wings, Capitals, my Friday best bet.
There you go. Detroit, Washington, first period, over 1.5 for Alex B. Smith with his best bet. My best bet, let's go to that late night game. Pittsburgh gives up 4 goals in their sleep these days, and I think Vegas can do the same, get to 4 goals tonight. Let's go with that. Vegas Golden Knights team total, over 3.5, minus 130. Sprinkle on that over by Fecta in that game as well, but primarily the bet I like the most is that. Golden Knights, over 3.5, their team total. Pittsburgh's given up 4 goals or more in 6 of their last 7 games. Vegas Golden Knights, team total over 3.5, minus 130 for my best bet here for this Friday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. Appreciate it very much. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we are back with you tomorrow. A huge Saturday card at noon Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.